guys.
Hey, and you know, I just want to say, you use that word imminently, imminence. You know, we talk about, in theology, we talk about transcendence and imminence. And imminence being that kind of presence, right there, imminent. That's Amy. She's
Eminence.
present. Yeah, she's eminence. You're eminence. Like even when you're not on the screen, we know you're
I'm
here.
present. Yes.
Yeah, we like that.
Oh, good. I was going to say that could either be good or bad. You like that. We could call our people, our audience, characters. It's not a really good idea.
Hey, you characters. Hey, you characters, you can count on Amy. You can count on Amy. You can count on Amy.
Yes.
To name you.
Okay, I kept thinking of a story as you guys were talking about character. And hopefully this is helpful in some way. So, I don't know if this will make any sense. So Pep texted me. It was totally last minute. He was going to be out here for a gig. And it worked out that, like, we could meet up. And so, and I'm going to say it involves Pep, but it also involves you too, Kurt, because you are with us wherever we go. Talk about eminence. You are present wherever we go. So I am able to grab Pep from the airport, and we were gonna. Then last minute, he said, "Do you want to go grab a bite to eat right now?" So I'm like, "Yeah." So we go to breakfast. So we're sitting at breakfast. We're almost finished, and my phone is next to me on the seat, and it buzzes, and I look down, and it's a call from Sarah, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I had a meeting scheduled with her 10 minutes ago. And and Pep can vouch, I was immediately flooded, like, oh my gosh. And I think Pep probably thought somebody died. Like, I'm like, Pep, I have to take this. I've got to take it. And so he's like, cool, I'll get your breakfast to go. I mean, we were almost done. And he said, I'm going to go, you go do your meeting, and then I'm going to go for a walk. But I was so affected. So I had Pep on one side. I was worried about him. Sarah on the other side, I'm worried about her. And it took me a hot minute to, like, what is the word?
Land the plane.
Transition and
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did, Pep had his headphones, he went for a walk, I did my call. But the significant, I was, like when you say reflect on things on encounters, right? And I was so surprised by my reaction. Like why I was so, and if it's hysterical, it's historical. So all these things are swimming. So I get through it all. Sarah was more than gracious. She said, I actually thought something had happened because you don't ever, like, you're never late, you're never da-da. And Pep said, Aim, I used the time. I had to listen to some podcasts for work. I was walking. So that's like, so now I'm thinking, what does that have to do with character? Mm-hmm. But, and that might be where you guys come in. But, and then reflecting on it and reflecting on scripture, what does that say? Like, clearly I have something tied up with doing the right thing, being reliable, da-da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think even that you're having this conversation with us now about this, and that you're naming this, and is a testimony to character. It's not just that something, again, it's not just that something happened and you had a reaction. It's how you respond to the reaction. Mm-hmm. And it's like with this person, Evelyn, it wasn't just that she had a reaction. Now, for her, part of her work is that she, like you, I mean, she might say, why do I still have, I can't stand the fact that I still have a reaction when somebody pays me a compliment about my dress.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to go down the shame rabbit hole where we say, I know that I've I know that I've made gains. I know that my sister doesn't have the same degree of control over me. I don't react in the same way in general. But how is it I'm in a room of people that I know that care about me, a person who pays me a compliment, a person who like I know is my friend. And this person pays a compliment, and it's this bid for intimacy that somehow finds the seam. And there's this reactivity. And then the temptation is for us to then judge our reaction. If evil can't stop your progressive growth in character because of all the work you're doing, then it's going to look for some other way to do it. It's going to try to, it's going to leverage the smallest of moments to distract you into thinking, why am I, all the things, but here we are talking about it. And it's a testimony to the character, to your character development and depth, because you're able to reflect on it in the way that you are. And the more that we are reflecting on reflecting on my hysterical moment, the more that reflection actually helps alter the history. And by that, I don't mean it doesn't go back and change things in time before it doesn't like redo history there, but it means my response to history is different now, which means that the overall package of history is changing.
Right.
I find that I'm often in the present realizing that I'm using tools that I needed in the past that I don't need anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, makes great sense.
Can you give an example of that?
Yeah, I can give an example of that. We've talked about this in the past, and the one thing that's come up recently with me is just a reaction to I don't know whether it's authority or what you would say, but a reaction to certain temperaments and things that have taken me back to relations with my father when I got to a point, like junior high school, where I would hear him come home and I would sneak out the cellarway door because I didn't want to deal with what was going to be coming my way. It wasn't going to be any physical violence, just so the listeners know, but it was not
unpleasant,
something that unpleasant.
Yeah.
And so I would have this flight reaction. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. And I was finding myself that happening to me in the present, in where I am now in life, and I recognized it. And I wrote a little mantra out saying, Lord, don't let me be the child that needs to run out the cellar door today. Let me be the man that realizes that I don't need a cellar door.
It's beautiful.
And so it's I think there's a lot of tools that we may have needed at one point in our lives, but through the work and perseverance, we can put down. And we need other tools, but that's to your earlier point, Kurt, that still comes up, and we still have to keep doing the work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about this this Greek word, however we pronounce it, dokime, that Paul uses, that this refinement process, that character is like sterling silver, it's being refined. That we're not being punished by God. We're not being like, well, I'm going to, whip you into shape. It's more a matter of like, he's an artist, and he is working on that painting. He is working with the sculpture. There is this thing that he is, what son does a father love who he does not discipline? There is, and when we hear that, and it's like, especially in our moment where nobody likes discipline, everybody, it's all kind of wrapped up in, people are afraid about so many things. But the reality is that I need this, and especially if I have a father who is actually able to do it in a way that is without violence,
right,
and without condemnation, but who's still bringing me to a place where he wants me to be, even if I'm not really all that happy about going there. But this notion of it's all a refinement process that's getting us ready for what's coming. Because I think of if you think about Evelyn, like that comment, the woman makes a comment about her dress. It's a bid for intimacy. It's a bid for intimacy.
Right.
And if one can imagine heaven, when heaven gets here, like intimacy, the bid, like it's going to be so thick. If you're not open to it, you won't be able to breathe. It'll be so thick. And so if I don't have, I know that, I said this the other day, like this notion that if we're not prepared, if we're not practicing for heaven when it gets here, I say this, it may crush us, right? This notion that it's so dense, it's so beautiful, it's like the love is so overwhelming. We think that this is a thing that, this will be great until it actually gets here. And it's hard for us to get our minds around how something, that the only things that would be frightening to us, we think that the only things that would be frightening to us are things that we perceive to be violence. Violence coming for me. It's hard for us to perceive that I might have that same reaction to love coming for me.
Yeah.
Because love echoes all of the parts of my story in which intimacy is tangled up with violence. And so it's hard for me to imagine that if you're going to be that close to me, that you're not going to want to exploit me or consume me or do violence to me in some way, shape, or form. And the formation of character is all about turning us into people who are living very differently than that.
Yeah, that's the quote in the book. One of the first quote that I underlined in the book was, "For to give, we first must receive, and there is nothing more difficult, no harder work for humans to do than to be receptive to love." Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you for today. Until next week, you guys.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.